Hey everybody, the time has finally come. Cliff Notes Podcast is finally here. So let's talk business, where we talk to everyday entrepreneurs and business professionals about the grind and hustle it takes to run an everyday business.
Hey guys, this is Cliff for Cliff Notes Podcast, and today we got a special guest, Lynne Reznick. Welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No problem. So Lynne is quite the entrepreneur. She started a wedding photography business, and now she does a Lake City co-working where she has little micro offices at her establishment. Could you tell me how you got started with just being an entrepreneur altogether?
Sure. I was a teacher first. I taught high school history for 10 years.
Oh, that's something new about her I didn't know about.
Yeah. I was in Hartford, Connecticut at the time after college. And so I went to school for history, got certified to teach, and loved teaching, but was also early on knew that it wouldn't be like a 30-year, I'm going to retire from this, because I wanted to not hate the children by the time I retired. I loved the children. I wanted to keep loving the children. So I just knew it was not going to be a forever thing, but I didn't know exactly what I was going to do. And then Scott and I, my husband, got married in 2008. And that's when I actually discovered photography. So I kind of fell into entrepreneurship through more of like a love for a craft in like a specific thing. So it wasn't just like I wanted to start a business. It was I really loved photography. And in searching for a wedding photographer, I discovered what photography had become, because I really only knew like wedding photography in particular from like my parents' very formal posed, like studio looking wedding portraits. And I was like not interested in that. But the digital revolution really changed how photography happened. And so I got my first camera shortly after we got married. And then my wedding photographer, who is still going today, became my mentor, which was really cool.
Awesome.
So I was able to work with her over like the summers, and being a teacher, that really worked nicely for the busy season in New England weddings to then go, and work for her over the summers while I had those off. And I went on weddings with her and like learned from her, and then opened my business on the side.
Right. Now, you always wanted to do photography as a younger child, or was it?
Yeah, so not necessarily.
Okay.
I was always into the visual arts.
Okay.
Still am, obviously, with photography, but I just recently took up like watercolor painting again too.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, which I took like all the art classes in high school. We did not have a photography one, so I did not take photography in high school, but I just always knew I loved the visual arts. So that was something I was always into. So it was a really natural fit, but I didn't fall in love with it until really after. But I mean, I grew up with my mom and my grandfather both being obsessed with photography and cameras and documenting our family photos for like every holiday, all that stuff. So it's in the blood, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's something that's kind of like has died, where I remember growing up, my mom used to have like big video cameras, and she used to have, little cameras where she could get all the pictures developed. And
yeah.
I mean, we've seen how technology has changed to the point where you don't have camera. You barely see people with a camera around their neck anymore unless they are professionals doing weddings or things that you do.
Yeah. Everyone has it on their phone now. So, and the phones are powerful, but I would argue it is not the same.
No, definitely not. It definitely takes a good eye to be a photographer. Now, has AI and anything like that made your job easier?
Yes. Yes and no. Yes, in the sense that I've been working the last 2 years, actually, all of my photos get an initial edit through an AI program. I was able to like upload Lightroom galleries, so finished galleries of weddings, and they created a profile based on how I edit. And then now I just feed them all through there, and it's cheaper, it's faster, it's like virtually instantaneous. I get 1,000 images back in 30 minutes.
Oh, wow.
And I go through and edit, like refine all of those. Rarely are they like exactly where I want them, but they're 85 or 90% there. And then I'm finishing up like putting my style on it, but it's gotten really good.
Awesome.
So that makes it much faster. And then Photoshop has gotten like this generative AI feature now that they have in beta testing, which is really cool. It makes it really easy to like remove an ugly car or a trash
Yep.
can, or add a bush as opposed to like a backpack if someone had something there, which is great. The curse of AI in some ways, though, is that couples are now expecting more and more from their images, and there's this balance of like, what really happened on your day? What did your day really look like?
Right.
What do you really look like? Versus making this like magical, perfect image out of every single image.
I know when I started this podcast and running my own business, electrical company, and doing both of these and trying to juggle everything, I didn't really have time to like do a headshot. So I was like,
You should have called me.
I know,
Could have come over.
I know. So I was like, let's just do an AI. So now, like the beginning of my intro, my podcast, I look like an Indian game show host.
I know, I saw those and I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Is that before you got a haircut? Like, what is that?
I like them though. I think like it because it has the AI ones and then the real ones, and I'm like, yeah, I like that.
There you go.
Yeah. Do you do photography locally or out of state?
I do, although I haven't been advertising heavily. So I was in Hartford when I started, but the year after I launched my business, we moved to Boston for Scott to do his PhD at Boston College. So that's what brought us to the area too. He's a professor at SUNY in English. But I really spent 8 years building my business in Boston, building my connections in Boston. I went full time in Boston into photography. And so I go back there for the most part for weddings,
Right.
just because the customer base is there. The planners I work with are there. The other like vendor referrals are all there. So Boston, Cape Cod is like my main service area, but I had a wedding in Malone last year, which was really fun.
nice.
I've done a few in the Catskills. I've definitely done networking in Saratoga. I've second shot for other photographers in like Lake George and in Saratoga Springs. So willing to come up here, but I don't push hard in this
Right.
area. Yeah.
And was it shocking when you came up here to go from millions of people in a city to 30,000 people?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely different.
Yeah.
And I love the city. I love getting to go back for work, which is, I think, the other reason I'm like, give me the excuse to go back to Boston, more often, if possible. But it's gorgeous up here. And the tight-knit community is really
No, for
amazing
sure.
up here. And that is part of why I was looking to do Lake City co-working and start a co-working space to get into the community, to meet more people, to like find other ways of getting in there, even if I'm not moving my photography business like fully
Right.
up here.
So let's move into that. So Lake City co-working, that was a great idea.
Thank you. We're still working on building it and
Right,
selling
but
it
like-
to people.
What made you like? You're up here. You're doing photography. Your husband has a PhD. He's a professor at Plattsburgh in English, and you just sitting at home one day, watch TV, and be like, you know what? I'm gonna open a co-working micro business place.
Yeah, I actually thought about it before we even moved. Like when I knew
Okay.
we were moving up here, one of the first things I did was check to see whether they had any co-working spaces in Plattsburgh yet, or like how close the closest one was. Because when I went full time at home, I went from like, I transitioned out of the classroom when we moved to Boston, but I was still working in an office. I was a senior leader for a while in a nonprofit organization that was education based. So I was like leading a team, like working, in an office every day. And then I went full time in my business, and I was like working from home in my pajamas every day,
Right.
which is great.
Sure.
Don't get me wrong. But it also gets like very lonely very quickly. And I had to figure out a schedule for myself. I had to figure out how to like have new routines and do all these things. And I was just word vomiting at Scott when he'd come home, because I'm talking to no one but our cats all day. Like, let me tell you all the things I've done, So I decided to look at co-working space options in Boston, and I tried a few different ones. And there was actually a women's only co-working space called The Wing in Boston, which I really enjoyed going to. And some of my other like wedding industry friends were also going there. So that was a great way to get out. And I would go once a week, either for coffee with a girlfriend or to work there.
So was that like kind of like a chamber, like a kind of like
No.
an after hours kind of thing?
No, it's literally like the same concept as Lake City Co-working, except
Okay.
on a bigger scale, because it was a Boston. It had more demand
Right.
kind of in the city. But it's monthly, or you can get a day pass to go and join. It's membership based, and they had all these work areas. So open seating, a quiet room. They had conference rooms and phone booths and all the things we have. They just had more of them.
Right.
They even had like a cafe in theirs
Oh,
because it was
awesome.
so big. So you could actually get like food right on site, which is kind of neat. But it was just a really great place to go and like mix up your routine and put on real clothes and get out of the house and see other humans as well as get your work done. So I really liked that. So I started wanting to do that here too. And I knew it was a great opportunity to meet people. Like you have a built-in community of people who use that space.
Right.
And when there wasn't anything like that here, I was like in the back of my mind, always thinking about this as something I'd like to do, maybe, and check out. Needed to get to know the area a little bit first. So we moved in 2020. Scott got hired like right before the whole world shut down.
Yeah, COVID.
Yeah. And my other big thing was once we got up here, I knew I really wanted to do it in the downtown. Like I love the downtown. I love that it's mom and pop shops. I love that it's walkable. So I knew I wanted to do it there, and it was just waiting for a space to open up.
Now, did you talk to other people in the community that like of what your idea was before you opened it to see if you would what they thought?
Yeah, bounced it off a few people just to see what they thought. There's still a lot of education around it, and so I did find that it was, explaining exactly what it is and how it works, relating it to like the gym membership kind of thing. But people were really positive about it. It was really positively received and like encouraged as a good idea. Especially with COVID, actually, like the post-COVID work world is really different than pre-COVID. A lot more people are working remotely. A lot of people are working from home. And so even if you're not like a business owner, right, which is maybe the original demographic I had in mind, I quickly shifted that to just thinking about anyone who's working remote, because we all have that same issue of like needing to get out of the house potentially and stay productive, stay motivated, and not fall into the trappings of like your dog is at home and you can cuddle and watch Netflix, or you can like do your laundry and clean out your fridge. I don't know, like those kinds of things, right?
So let's kind of like maybe role play for the people that are watching. Like, say I'm a new lawyer and I'm looking for an office space to kind of leave my house because I have kids and my wife runs a daycare, and I just need a place to get out of my house. I hear about you. I come in and tell me a little bit what you guys do and what you can offer and what I need to do to be part of your...
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you're exactly why we are here.
Right.
And you're to solve those issues, to solve those problems. It's frantic and loud, I'm assuming, with your wife's daycare service.
Yep.
So this is a quiet place to come. And it's different from a coffee shop in that it's not going to be loud. Everyone is, paying to come here as a member, wants to be working and productive. It's secure. So you'll get your own PIN code to access the space. It's autonomous in that way, so it's not fully staffed, but you can let yourself in during business hours. You can come in, you pick your seat. You're guaranteed a seat, also not like at a coffee shop, right? There's no rush to get up, they move, and you can get to work. And so it's really on a monthly basis, and it's flexible. So if you like working at home some of the time, you don't have to sign up for a full-time membership. We have a 2-pack, a 5-pack, and a 10-pack, which are all these flex plans. So you can come in 2 days a month, 5 days a month, 10 days a month. But we also have all the amenities of a full office. So we have a printer and a scanner. We have a kitchenette with like a microwave and a mini fridge. We have a little snack bar that you can access. There's a bathroom, right on site, so you don't have to leave to use the bathroom. We have Chapter 1 drip coffee on, repeat for you while you're there. And then we also have a conference room if you ever want to take a meeting with a client in person or on Zoom, on the phone, that kind of thing, as well as a little phone booth under the stairs, Harry Potter style.
Nice.
The little converted closet that is now a very cute little phone booth so that you can hop in there as well. And again, it has a little fold-up desk, so you can put your laptop there. You can take Zoom calls, take phone calls, that kind of thing.
Could I have my own office permanently?
So we have 3 private offices, which have been really popular since we put them in. That's part of the evolution of the space. It started without them. And we added those in January of this year. So January of 2024, they're brand new.
Nice.
And they've been really popular. So we do have one opening up June 15th. But in general, they've been full, which is nice. But yeah, so we do have those 3 private offices, and those come with 24/7 access. So you can come in on the weekends, at night, whenever you want, as well as a like private keyed entry for your office specifically. So you can actually store stuff there versus like other members who really can't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Is there any kind of stipulations that with your business that a person that wants to have the full access that they can't get, or such as like is there like internet 24/7? Like is there?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, Wi-Fi is one of the big amenities.
Can you have like if you're working after hours and can you have guests come in if you want to have a meeting?
Yeah, so private office people definitely can, like those 3 offices. Our business hours for general flex members are 8 to 8, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or 8 to 5 on Thursday and Friday. So if you're looking to do something at like 7 o'clock on Thursday and you're a flex member who's just on like a 10-pack, like that's going to be a limitation for you. But short of that, during those business hours, even our flex members are welcome to bring in clients or guests, have meetings in the space. I have a sales rep who works for Aflac actually, who's been with me since the start as a member, and he has a 5-pack plan, and he brings in new clients to do their like registration and sign up all the time. So that's one of the main reasons he uses the space there.
That's awesome. Okay. Now, what has been the biggest difficulty for you through this whole thing of like setting up, like starting small and then keep expanding?
It's definitely been an iterative process of learning like what people want and need. I think the biggest thing has just been educating people on what it is. When we first opened and it said, Lake City Co-working, I had people asking me if we were, like a co-op, like the one around the corner, like are we farming, those kinds of, or like, helping farmers. And so just explaining like what we are and how we operate has been the biggest thing in getting the word out. And then also, I think, challenging people who work from home and are like in a good routine at home on a regular basis, which I do too. I have a home office. I happily work from home a lot of the time. But like challenging people to think about the fact that maybe they could be even more productive or like build their network and build their community by giving this a try. The difference I found with the city, and this is true even for me, right? When I lived in Boston, we were in a 2-bedroom apartment. It was a lot smaller and tighter. And so getting out once a week was really nice just to have a little more space too. And people up here tend to have, single family homes, a little more space to roam on their own already. And so that pressing need isn't necessarily there, but I do think there's a benefit for people. So it's been educating people on what that benefit can be. Building your network, building your community. And even like, Scott comes down and uses it sometimes because he's grading papers and he's like, I'm literally going to fall asleep on the couch if I stay at home. Like I need to get out of the house. I need to change up my setting and stay productive. And so that's a good way to do it.
I think you're doing great too. I mean, you're everywhere now, and
I hope so. I feel like I've been screaming it at everybody I meet for like 3 years.
Yeah, so. We met each other 2 years ago now, and like you're part of Rotary, the chamber, some of these committees. You actually have your own kind of like an after hours event still, right?
So Rising Tide, that organization kind of trickled that like away, and the central thing fell apart. Right. So I've stepped back from that, but certainly, Rising Tide aside, that was like a more formal thing that was going on for a little bit, trying to get off the ground. Being a central hub for people in the community is absolutely like a goal of mine with the space, which is why Thursdays and Fridays we still close at 5 o'clock, because Thursdays in particular are really good for doing workshops or hosting events. And then we're closed on the weekends for general business people, so that we can have private events there, like and rent it or host workshops. And we do like social workshops as well as stuff for business, which has been super fun to like bring all those people in.
What kind of events have you done in the past, and what kind of upcoming events do you have in the future?
So in the past, we've done on the social side, which is maybe what we've done more of in the past, we've done cupcake decorating, sugar cookie decorating, for like the holidays or for
Mhm.
Mother's Day. We've done floral arranging, caricature drawing, like learn how to do
Yep.
caricature with Joe Ferris. We've done, oh, and a pasta making. That was the other probably big one.
Pasta making.
Yes, homemade pasta. People came in and actually made pasta from scratch, which was so cool. And they got to take home
Is there a reason I didn't get an invite to that
a
one?
bunch. You got to pay attention to all the social media stuff, right? Get on my newsletter.
Yeah.
Get all the things. So that was really cool. And the host for that one, Chelsea, she did such a good job. And she had recipe cards for making an Alfredo sauce and then suggested wine pairings to go with it, like that she sent you home with at the end as well, which is really cool. So the social ones have been super fun, and you just get all kinds of cool people in like to do them, and can come back for like all kinds of different things. On the business side, we've done things like I've run one on how to take better photos on your cell phone.
Yep.
And like learning all the tips and tricks on your phone that you can actually use. We've had a full day retreat called Let's Talk Business that happened in March, which was really cool. We had 5 speakers come in and talk about a whole host of topics specific to micro business owners, and it included networking at the start and end of the day as well, which was great.
Did I do a networking one with you?
You did, yeah. You came in for that was like kind of with our rising tide thing, but we were hosting a talk. You were talking about TikTok, I think.
Yeah,
actually.
TikTok. Yeah.
So you came in and talked about that. Really open to kind of anything that people are doing. We've had on offer, and this is where it's like kind of a bummer. It's hard to tell what people want, and maybe it's timing or things like that. On finding time and like work-life balance. Like that one's been offered, and we've also had one for parents on like parenting in the digital age. So lots of people out there have really cool ideas, and I'm always looking for new workshops to offer and to host.
You know, it'd be a cool idea, like because you're such in a popular area where everything is a walking distance. You should put like a suggestion box outside.
Yeah, like what do you want to see?
What would you like to see in here? What kind of events would you like to come? You know.
I love that. I need to do that. Even if it's just like a virtual one, so they can like scan a QR code and like tell me what you want to do. If you have any ideas.
No, for sure.
The next one we have on the list is July 11th, and it is, we just gave it a title today. What the heck is it called? Get Your Art Funded. It's a grant writing workshop for artists.
Okay.
So we have a huge artist community here, and the Arts Coalition is really strong. And so I think it's a great area, like an opportunity. And Jane Gabriels is the person who's going to be leading it, and she is an artist herself. So she's actually worked with other people and gotten her own art funded. So she like knows this process intimately, cool. And she's going to come in and kind of guide people through the process of like how to find and apply for grants to get their art funded.
That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah,
for sure.
So we're kind of like anything that people have an interest in, or an expertise they want to share.
So it's not just office space. It's
it's the intent is about community,
for sure.
Like truly, which is why we're not putting in more than 3 offices, because I want that co-working space, that general space. And even one of my members who's in one of the private offices, like whenever she's not on a call, like she comes out, she'll say hi. Like she likes the social aspect of it. She can do her work from home. She chooses to come into the office, again, for that separation of work and home, but then also for that social aspect. She doesn't, get to see people at home. So it's a really nice way to be able to socialize as well.
Where do you see Lake City Co-working in 5 years from now?
Ooh, I hope that we are, building to a point where I'm looking for a new space potentially, awesome. Like a bigger space.
Yep.
It is one of those like tricky balances in terms of the finances to have a smaller space. We're at a 1,250 square foot space.
Yep.
So part of that is like maintaining that open space for co-working and for community stuff, and then balancing that with the private offices, which can be more naturally in demand. But I'd love to see us grow our general membership to where like, people are starting to have to like sit together at the space, and we're forced to like look for that next bigger place to go. So
in this whole journey of whether it's your photography or Lake City Co-working, what is the most memorable experience that you've had as far as being a business owner?
Oof, that's a good question. I'm going to take a sip of water and give myself a most memorable. Well, it would have to be starting Lake City Co-working, honestly, because that was totally different than photography in the sense that photography was comparatively easy to start because it's online. I don't need a studio. It's my
Right.
first brick and mortar. So Lake City Co-working was my first brick and mortar. I have to shout out to my father-in-law who made that possible. He's a carpenter by trade. He came up and really helped me like gut the sound booth that was like the radio station that was in there before me and transform the space.
What radio station was that?
106.3.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, they're still going. They're just not in there anymore. But yeah, so he was a huge help. My husband also was a huge help. But that was like a massive undertaking that I may have underestimated to start. We flipped the space in a month in August of 2022. We flipped it. I got keys on August 1st, and we had our like grand opening during First Friday on September 2nd. So it was like an insane month, and I was gone for weddings for like 2 of the weekends on top of it. So, yeah.
Yeah, I guess that is a scary part of doing a brick and mortar, because even me just coming here and just like leaving my house, and that was my office, and just like it's a big difference.
It's a big difference, and it's a whole other like level of cost to carry.
No, for sure.
And to think about like and those kinds of things, and just with the co-working space to start, like the aesthetic was really important to me. I'm a photographer, so I care about like natural light, and I care about, design and things like that. But also for other people, like I want people to leave their home and come and work with me. I don't want it to feel like a bunch of cubicles or stuffy or things like that. I want it to be warm. I want it to be inviting. The goal was to have it be an extension of like your living room, kind of, but in a much more like office-y productive way, I guess.
Right. And you decorate seasonally, like Christmas, Valentine's Day.
Yeah, I don't go crazy too much, but we have our windows decorated for Pride right now.
Yep.
And I just did those today. And definitely do the like Christmas holiday kind of season, and try to do some stuff for like fall, maybe Valentine's Day.
So it's warmy.
That's the extent. Yeah.
Yeah. I guess done the Christmas tree so far. Really, I've seen some people do the Christmas tree where they do it all seasons. My wife's office does that.
Oh, that's kind of fun.
So
then you never have to take it down.
They don't,
which is
nice. Who's your biggest inspiration when it comes to leadership and starting Lake City Co-working?
Biggest inspiration. You're gonna have to cut out the time while I'm thinking. That's a good question too. Let's see. I guess so 2 people for leadership. Like one is that more, I don't know this person, right? Brene Brown, I really love. Started listening to her and reading some of her books like years ago. And in terms of how to lead and be a strong female leader and lead with vulnerability and things like that, I really, really like her. So I've been a huge student of her work in general. And then on a personal note, the Boston Debate League is where I worked between teaching and going into photography full time. And when I started there, my boss, it was the best boss I've ever had. She was wonderful, Marisa, and she taught me a lot about like the day-to-day in and out of leading a team, of making good decisions and thinking through all the avenues. I tend to be like a doer and just like plow ahead, which is good a lot of the times. I get a lot of stuff done and I do what I say I'm going to do, but it can also steamroll people if you're working on a team, right? So like learning that dynamic. And I was coming from a classroom where I am in charge. I don't have to like poll the room, right? We're going to do what I tell you we're going to do as a classroom teacher. I mean, obviously you're engaging your students and building rapport, but it's a very different and clear dynamic versus working with adults on a team and helping to manage and supervise and support them in their own goals. So I learned a lot of that from her.
Yeah, I mean, it's a constant learning curve when you run your own business. So that's going to lead me into my next question of what challenges you and what makes you, what are you not good at? Something you must work on every day. or you need practice at?
Like letting go of expectations to some degree and letting things naturally unfold. I think that's a big one for me.
Yeah.
Like I will put all the work in, I'll put all the hours in, and feeling like helpless to some degree for
Mm-hmm.
what the outcome might be, right? Like things are growing, but it's taking some time. It's a brand new business, right? At Lake City Co-working. So knowing that you just have to keep that consistency going. And sometimes that consistency gets hard. You get tired. I will, lose faith sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's pulling yourself back up for me is that thing. And also like knowing I'm doing as much as I can, doing what I need to do, that it's enough, and like
Yep.
trusting in the process that it's going to move forward. It's like a constant reminder.
Oh, I know. I mean, one of those things too is for me is time management. And I'm at the stage now where I'm ready to grow and I don't have all the equipment that I need to grow. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things like I have plenty of work. I know what needs to be done. It's the lack of people or the time to get things done as far as whether it's all right, I have 50 jobs to do, but I also have to get 40 estimates done. And so they get turned into work so I can make payroll. So those kind of things are stressful. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yeah.
So I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my God. Sometimes I just need to be like, go to Florida for like a week, reset.
Yeah, that's a nice option. Yeah. But yeah, no, I mean I definitely feel that. And especially with the two businesses,
Yeah.
juggling both, especially when weddings are seasonal in New England, so the summer really picks up, and still dedicating time and focus and energy to both, like that
Right.
can be really difficult too. So I hear you. I tend to try and like stack my days with one business or the other. Has been helpful because when I first started, I was finding that like I wasn't getting anything really done. Like it was really hard to stay focused in one area because I was constantly getting pulled into another business or into the other area, things like that. And I just don't work well that way. So I try to stack like, all right, this is when I'm taking calls or this is when I'm leaving the house. Like when we go to Rotary once a week on Wednesdays,
Yep.
I always spend the afternoon working at the co-working space on co-working stuff. That's like co-working day for me because I'm already like downtown, I'm out of the house, I know I'm going to stop there and do that. Then I have to protect my time sometimes for photography stuff too, and like make sure I'm doing the editing
Mm-hmm.
and doing the blogging and doing like the social media marketing and like all the things that come with that.
So how do you shut it down? That's one of my biggest challenges is shutting
Your
down.
racing mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, you
Yeah.
you leave here and it's a constant thought. It's I'm thinking of other businesses to start, or I'm thinking,
Yeah.
how can I make the business better and faster and what else I could do. And then like I'm in bed and I'm going to sleep and I'm like, you know what? I should buy an excavator. It just never stops.
Yeah, I
It's
got a
like,
drone this year because I was
yeah,
like, you know what I
yeah,
need? Let's add this one thing. But no, I'm not great at it all the time.
right.
But I definitely over the years have developed some rituals, for lack of a better word, like habits, keystone habits, and
Yeah.
like daily rituals. So I always start my day like the same way. One with coffee, and two with quiet time in the morning. I'm not a morning person. I don't know how I taught high school for 10 years
Yeah.
and had to be like a human talking to other humans by 7:30. Like, no,
Yeah.
not cool. I don't choose that for myself anymore. So I do get up usually like 6:30, but it's like coffee, quiet time, journaling. I am like Christian, so I will regularly like read a passage of the Bible, pray, do those kinds of things. But I spend about 90 minutes like not talking to other people
Right.
and easing into the morning. That really usually sets me up well for the day. And I notice when I skip that or have to like miss that for something. And then in terms of like turning it off at night, so hard.
Mm-hmm.
Cooking together with Scott for dinner, we always cook together. That is like that time, that transition time for me that kind of marks like the day is done.
Yep.
And now we're going to transition into being a human outside of work.
Yep.
And trying, it doesn't always work perfectly. And I'm still like on Instagram and crap like that I shouldn't be doing. But for the most part, like that's when we talk about our days. That's when we process together, like how the days have gone. We eat a meal together, and then like we're in the evening time. So that has helped. And then before bed, I always phone is in another room. Like literally, I have an old school alarm clock. Scott hates it. Yeah, I actually, so mine, it was doing the meet, but then it broke. So I got a new one that has the literal like bells on top.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it didn't last very long. I had it for like 2 weeks, and I was requested to get a new one. So we're back to the meet. But literally using the analog alarm clock and putting my phone to charge in another room so that it's not near me, and I read before bed for like 40 minutes every night.
I don't like reading, but when I do, I fall asleep.
It's a great way to go to sleep. Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. It takes me like months and months. I'm reading Les Miserables right now, which is like 1,400 pages, and I'm going to be reading it like all year. But like 5 pages a time, like sometimes you get really tired, and it's like, and I'm done. But
yeah, so I'll do mine real quick. I start my day, and I have to take a shower. It doesn't matter if I took a shower the night before. I have to take a shower to wake myself up, and I have a speaker shower.
Oh, nice.
For an exhaust fan, and I put on a podcast every morning. And then I get dressed, and I start my day. And then when I get home, I probably work a little bit more when I'm home, and then I usually find a movie.
Okay.
Kind of just like shut it down, and then I go to bed. If I don't fall asleep at the movie.
I'm really bad at falling asleep at movies. Even if they're like boring and I'm not into it, I can't do it.
I've
gotta read.
I've fallen asleep in the movie theater before, so.
My mother has done that too.
With your career or personal, how would you like to make a difference as far as other people's lives?
So legacy is actually something I think about a lot, partly because I'm a wedding photographer. And so I'm thinking about the images I'm creating from that day and the photographs that are capturing memories. Like it's a very palpable thing on a wedding day to be thinking about. So part of it is that, like capturing those moments for people, and to go down a little spiral here on the photography side, it's more than just like having a beautiful gallery of images.
Sure.
To me, there is legacy right in that day, right? So many people think about it as the culmination of planning and the celebration, but it's really the start of your marriage and the start of the next chapter in your story. And, whether you have kids or not, for generations to come, your family is going to have these to look back on. And even you and your spouse are going to have those images to look back on. Whether it's annually or whether it's, when things get hard and you pull out that album and you actually, remember where it started and remember a good day. And often also the last best photos you have of loved ones, like your grandparents. I had a couple reach out to me before I was even done editing because the bride's grandmother had passed suddenly.
It's terrible.
And so they were looking for images from, the wedding for her and for her wake and funeral and those kinds of things, and just to remember her by. So you're creating so many important memories for people with that. So I think about that a lot, and doing that on an individual basis. And I think on the greater one, the community element is super important to me.
Sure.
I don't know exactly what that impact or legacy is, except to like leave a community more vibrant and better than when I started. And a lot of that isn't necessarily about what I'm doing. It's about who I'm helping to do their thing. At least that's kind of what I've learned about like myself and what Lake City Co-working is doing.
Right.
I'm not running most of the workshops. I'm not like introducing most of the people. It happens naturally in that space, which is what I really love.
And I'm glad you said generational, because like I was actually just listening to something the other night on a podcast, and when you do think about it, photography is something that is a memorable thing that is generational, because my parents have photo albums of my grandma and her parents and her grandparents, because if we like, what do you know about your great grandmother right now?
Yeah,
I mean, other than a picture.
Exactly. And stories you hear.
Yeah. So like in 100 years from now, your car that you spend $60,000 on is in a junkyard.
Right.
There's another family that's living in your house that you have so many memories in. but someone has that photo album that you took. So that means a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I always loved like looking at old photos of my grandparents, from when they were young and growing up. They're some of my favorite keepsakes from them, from their lives. And I literally have this on my website, like on the About Me page for my photography website. I have a picture I took of my grandparents. It was one of the last photos I have of them when my grandmother was still at home because she got dementia and had to go into the hospital, long-term care. And they're both gone now, but like they had an incredible love story. They were like super, ordinary small town people, but she was the only person he ever asked out because he was super shy and almost didn't show up for the date, which is so cute. Thank God he did. They were together for, I think it was 65 years before she died. They were together, raised 4 kids together, lived in the same house for 55 years. Like an incredible story. And she was already starting to, suffer from memory loss when we were there, when I took that photo. But the old stuff, she remembered. I mean, which was so cool. And she never forgot my grandfather. And they had this silver framed black and white portrait from their wedding day on their mantle. And even that day, like she picked it up before we left and she was like grinning ear to ear, like telling me the story of their wedding day. And she was like, isn't he so handsome? I mean, she made my grandfather blush at like 85. Like, love it, love it. But like, those are the kinds of like memories and they're so tangible, which is why the photographer rant is print your photos, people.
Yeah.
It's just not the same as having it on your cell phone.
It's not. I think a lot of people struggle with that. Like even me, like I probably have 150 actual photos of my son who's 10 years old.
Yeah.
I mean, my mom has thousands of me. You know what I mean?
Right. And there are lots of programs now. I couldn't name them off the top of my head necessarily, but there are lots of companies that literally, like, you can print photo books straight from your phone, like photo album on your phone. So, doing an annual one, I have a couple friends who actually do like an annual photo album and they just go back through and they like choose them right off their phone and have it printed and made. That's a great option. But certainly for those like big life events, like printing a few photos or printing an album, like having those things tangible, it's so important. Like that's how future generations are going to want to interact. And if you think about the technology, so I've been in business and photography for 12 years. I started delivering images on DVDs, like branded DVDs. And then it turned into flash drives. And now it's just all electronic in the gallery. And I send them some prints for all of my couples, but like everything's electronic. And even like USBs are changing, right? You have like 3 sizes for USB ports now, which is annoying. That's a different story. But like, you don't know what it's going to be in the future. Can you even access those images 20 years down the road if they're stuck on a hard drive somewhere? Like things that are really important need to be
I mean, that's just like the videos that my parents taking videos of us as children, like they're on VHS tapes. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know how to even get those off.
Right? You're going to have to go on eBay and buy a...
Yeah. Where can people get a hold of you and find you?
Yeah, so not hard to find, definitely on the internets. So lakecitycoworking.com is the website for the co-working space, or LynneReznickPhotography.com for photography. And all of our information is on there. We're also on Instagram and Facebook at Lake City Co-working for both of those like platforms. So those are great places to reach out.
Okay. Is there anything you want to add or anything I missed?
I don't think so. I think we covered a lot.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Yeah, this was real fun. So again, this is Lynne Reznick. She owns Lake City Co-working. If you guys are looking for an office space, it's a perfect location. Got a coffee shop, restaurants across the street. Take a little, you eat too much, you can go walk around the block. It's perfect. Well, thank you for coming in, Lynne.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.